Greetings everyone, welcome to yet another brand new content from Throttle Alpha. 2019 has been one hell of a year. We could make a few contents out of 2019. Well, I'm trying to make 2020 a bit better for Throttle Alpha. I'll try to give out as much as information about bikes and cars as I can this year. Well, thought of making a review for this bike in vlog style because I really believe that this bike is very underrated in our local market here, and this bike really deserves the attention it's looking for. Now, Benelli 165S, it's a new bike introduced in our local market here, and I will mention the pricing in the description box below. And for the price range, I must say this is a complete package. Now, coming to the history for Benelli has over 100 years of racing history and heritage. A company founded in 1911 started their first production units out in 1913. That's over 100 years now. So during the First World War, they basically hard fixed machines, and after World War II, they came out with their first 250cc supercharged racing bike that had an excellent TT career and overall had excellent racing history. So Benelli is a brand that you don't need to give second thoughts about. They're an Italian manufacturer that has been making motorcycles for over 100 years now. Well, this is a Chinese assembled motorcycle. It's assembled in China, but the company is Italian, so you don't need to worry a lot about branding and whatever. But this is a bike that needs a lot of attention, so I thought of making it out at vlog style so that it can help you out understand the bike better. Now let's come to the design for this motorcycle. The bike features a fully digital instrument console. I'll come to the detailed view for it. You have a pretty upright, wide and solid handlebar, which does an excellent job. You see the seating posture. I'm seating here. I will give a shot for the seating position for the bike. The bike features a 10-liter fuel tank and has no reserve option. So this is a FI unit, so you don't have a reserve key or a reserve tank option. The switch contents are pretty good, decent build, very good build in fact. And I like the mirror qualities and everything involved here. Now, primarily talking about the design, the bike feels pretty heavy. For a naked bike, this feels pretty heavy. This bike weighs around 147 kilograms, so that's like good weight. And if you're even thinking about touring with this motorcycle, I think this is a good highway option because you have a lot of weight underneath you. So that's a good point. And the weight distribution for it, I like the way the bike handles itself. You know what I mean? So everything feels pretty solid so far. I feel really good riding this motorcycle. Like, I came here riding my KPR, but after riding the KPR, when I've switched to this bike, oh man, this feels so much better. So the bike has a ground clearance of about 170 millimeter, which is quite more than good enough. I see no design flaws ultimately. A pretty good handle grip material, and I think everything feels pretty solid to the design so far. And as I was coming to the excellent riding posture that this bike has a pretty soothing and pretty excellent riding posture as a whole, and I will give out a demo of how it looks when you're riding the motorcycle. So this is how you look when you ride Benelli 165S. Pretty solid riding posture for a bike with a solid ground clearance of about 170 millimeters. And it is enough to combat any sort of off-road and on-road height that you need, the height profile that you need. For sports bike, it's a pretty tough job to deal with off-terrain situations, but I think this can be turned out into a touring monster because it has a lot of decent amount of height. And I would love to involve the fact that this bike has an excellent rear suspension that gave out pretty good feedback. I will ride out and also show how the suspension works. And for now, as you can see, this is the suspension unit for the bike. Alright, so now coming to the tire profile for the Benelli 165S, the bike features a 130 section rear tire. Now I couldn't test ride the grip ability for this tire, but as it looks for now, I think the bike would do a pretty good job in on-road conditions. But for off-roading, I couldn't give a proper test run. But I think the tires will do a pretty good job in terms of balancing because you have a 130 section tire in a naked bike, which makes a lot of sense. While I was giving a short run, I found out that the tires have excellent cornering ability, no doubt. excellent cornering ability. So I think the 130 section rear tire does a pretty good job with whatever it is. And the bike features a 100 section front tire, 180, and both the tires features a 17-inch rim setup, but the front tire is of about 100 sections, which is also ideal for the whole setup. A 130 section and a 100 section tire makes a lot of sense in terms of good balancing. So excellent job done with the tire here. Another seemingly attractive part about the design would be the headlight for the motorcycle. Classic Benelli stuff. It actually resembles all the higher cc units out there. The headlight looks decently good. This is how it looks. Excellent LED unit here, which is good enough for some day making. And you have the other two LED involvement. That's high and low beam. Excellent headlight for what it is. And I think for the price point that you're paying, like the price that you're paying for this motorcycle, it comes with an absolutely good build from the top to bottom, because whatever I'm touching or seeing here is actually pretty good stuff compared to all the other bikes out there in this budget. The headlight, the instrument cluster, the mirror quality, the handlebar, everything is of excellent quality in context of the price. So I really think this bike is underrated and deserves much more attention than what it really is getting. Coming to the front suspension unit, I could barely put up some pressure on this, but as far as I can say for now, the upside down setup makes sense because you have a pretty heavy chassis, right? You have a heavy chassis from the behind. The bike weighs around 147 kilograms. So initially you would get a lot of stress in the front section of the bike when you're braking hard or trying to go off-road and bit. So compared to normal telescopic suspensions, an upside down does a pretty better job generally, and for this bike the front suspension is pretty good enough. However, I did find some slight jerking in the handlebar. I'm not sure whether it's coming from the bottom section of the bike, but I think the suspension could be a little bit better from the front end, but however it does a very good job for what it is. Now coming to the braking for the bike has a 260mm front brake disc basically, but I must say the calipers are excellent. I did give some rough bite on the front brake, and understanding initially the brakes are heavily good. I must include this like this, that the brakes are excellent. I did like the twin piston caliper setup here, and the 260mm rear front disc does an effective job of stopping the bike. And you also have combi braking, a 60-40 ratioed braking here. As you can see, it's written CBS label. The rear disc and the front disc does an excellent combination whenever you're needing heavy braking. And I must also include the fact, in terms of comparing this to the Hornet CBS, that the Hornet CBS does not do an excellent job in cornering or heavy lifting. Whenever you're in high speed, you need to make some slight braking when you're in high speed or cornering in high speed. So I think this bike does an excellent job in the context of all the bikes out there. You can compare it to any CBS bike, and I will say that this bike does a better job in corners than the other CBS bikes present. You also have a 220mm rear disc setup with an attractive caliper too. The quality of the caliper is really good. The pillion seat is a bit upright, but not anything that wouldn't be comfortable. It's pretty small, like you can see my hand and palm fitting in the whole area, but I don't think this will be very uncomfortable. In context of all the other bikes out there, I think this is pretty much what it is, and it does a good job. But for the rider's seat, it does an excellent job. And you also have a Benelli labeling at the seat, so you can see how much they focused slightly to the small to the big parts of this bike. They focused a lot on the design, and I think this is a perfect design for everything that you're paying out for. Everything's included. Like, this bike has nothing missing. So I would say I'm pretty impressed with however this bike's designed. And in addition to it, I would also like to include that this rear mudguard has been included with the bike as stock, and you also have a LED tail braking unit, and the indicators are LED too, and they look very attractive. And now let's jump to the excellent exhaust music that this bike has. Classic Benelli stuff. So very sweet exhaust harmony. Classic Benelli stuff. Like this is one thing Benelli has always focused in ever since their Tornado models, is that they make good quality sound for bikes, and they focus a lot in this, and I think this bike is no exception. I really like and dig the exhaust note. And one more thing I wanted to mention about this exhaust would be that this exhaust has an oxygen sensor system. So if you're looking to upgrade to aftermarket exhaust, you need to keep check that this exhaust system does have an oxygen sensor with the overall EFI system that the bike has. One downside that I would mention is that this bike has no radiator guard, which I also got stock with my bike. Now this is important that you need a radiator guard because we have a lot of dust particles nibbling through the radiator, which might damage the radiator. So this is one downside because this bike has no radiator guard. And another bonus would be this bike has a side stand sensor, so whenever the bike's in side stand position, the bike won't start in gears. So this is a good addition to the bike for people who forget to leave their side stand. This bike has a side stand indicator. And talking about the chain setup too, the bike has an excellent chain setup. I mean, at this price point of near about 2 lakhs BDT, all the bikes involved in this price range lacks a good optimum chain setup. So this bike has a very good chain setup. This is a very good plus point for the bike. You have a pretty huge speed cluster that shows the speed adequately. In my bike, it's an issue because the KPR, it mainly features a small speed unit, but here you can see the numbers pretty largely and oddly out, so it's a good thing. And you also have a digital rev counter. Now coming to the most important factor about this motorcycle, it would be its engine. Well, I must say that Benelli has done an excellent job with the engine here. It's a naked motorcycle, but man, whenever I'm riding this, I feel like I'm on a sports bike. Now, why am I saying this? This bike is packed and loaded with 14 Newton meters of torque at about 7,000 RPM, and it has about 18 horsepower, near about 18 horsepower at about 9,500 RPM. So you get a lot of top speed out of this little beast here. And I must say that the FI, and the engine is primarily a 164.7cc, a 165cc single overhead cam 4-valve engine. And the 4-valve engine here is a pretty efficient one. You get around 38 to 40 kilometers a liter in the city and about 45 kilometers per liter in the highway, near about that range. So that approximation of 40 kilometers per liter for such a motorcycle that pulls out good torque and good horsepower is an excellent and efficient job done for a 4-valve engine. So I think this bike has done an excellent job with the engine here. I will also put out a 0 to 100 test for this bike to show you how excellent the speeding for this motorcycle is. The engine has all the Benelli presentations, the logo and the decaling company, and you also have it mentioned here that the company was founded in 1911. Benelli badgings here and everything, and it's a quality engine. No matter what anyone says, this is actually a quality engine for the price that you're paying. I think for a bike that's within the 2 lakhs BDT price range, this engine is an excellent presentation of how things can be done in a package. So a solid engine. And one of the most interesting factors about this bike is that this bike features 3 spark plugs. Man, I must say, I think this helps a lot out in the top end whenever this bike's doing over 130 kilometers an hour. And since this bike is a 4-valve engine, the 3 spark technology mainly helps optimizing the spark ratio. Like you have 2 to 3, you have all 3 spark plugs actively working, but at the high end or the high rev ratios, the 3rd spark plugs helps out maintaining effective sparking so that the bike does not miss out sparking in any way. So this is a new kind of technology improvised in this engine, and I think they have done a solid job because number one, it helps maintaining the 4-valve brake. Like other 4-valve engines here sounds a bit brakey, but this 4-valve engine, however, sounds good. So the good spark combination helps the engine maintain a solid engine growl and engine grunt, and the FI2 feels very smooth whenever you're riding the bike. So here goes a 0 to 100 test run. Whoa, that was seriously fast. Seriously fast. Good stuff. Oh man, this bike is a delight to ride. And the suspension too is giving out really good feedbacks of whatever I'm riding out here. Excellent stuff with the engine, man. Oh, that solid engine punch. I love it. You see how smoothly this bike handles speed. I mean, I'm pulling out revs from any gears out there. I'm starting from excellent throttle response from whichever gear I'm trying to pull out with. So good torque for this bike, and I will also include a top speed test run for this bike serially, so you can see how the top speed for this bike works. I think you get 3 colors for this bike, mainly black, white and red. There's this other color scheme, the green and black, neon green and black color scheme, which is not available in our country right now. I think you will get the white and the red color and the black color currently in our local market, and I will mention in the description box below of where you can get the motorcycle. So stay tuned until the next video. We'll come up with another content very soon. Do let us know in the comment section below of how you like this video, if we should come up with more vlog styled videos, and I hope you guys found this video to be very helpful. So this is all that I have to offer for the Benelli 165S. Stay tuned until the next one. We will come up with another video very soon. Thank you.